flexi. And so much of what kind of the year-over-year changes are refining how they want that bike to ride, how they want it to feel. Where is it stiff? How is it stiff? Where does it flex? How much does it flex? And so you kind of, in this frame, you see that they, very minimal seat stays. Nothing, not too large relative for a lot of the modern stuff of the down tube. And it's a, good steady power transfer, good solid bike, but not something that's going to be, taxing to ride with how rigid it is. I used to own a Specialized Venge Vias that north of 100 miles became very rigid. It was a very stiff, very fast aero bike. That's what it was designed for. It wasn't really intended to be ridden 100 miles in a day either. And so that's, carbon. Talked about steel a little bit. In the aluminum world of things, so aluminum is one of the lower cost options. And so it gives you a good, aluminum is going to be lighter than steel, generally speaking. There are super high-end steel frames that are going to be lighter, but super high-end is always a different conversation. But aluminum frames is kind of for the mass market, one of the most readily available materials that can be used and have really great quality. It is a very stiff metal. And so for a lot of mountain bikers, the aluminum frame is can be a pretty rough riding frame at times, and that's just relative to something like carbon fiber. In the full suspension world of things, there are a few small independent manufacturers that do steel full suspension frames, but they are very heavy. To have the pivots and everything designed for that full suspension frame, using steel is just one of those materials that it's kind of out of its time when it is is intended for that. Rare to see in full suspension, but there are a few, maybe like pure titanium. But any kind of an alloy is a good option because you get to pull different, and this goes into some more metallurgy conversation, but you pull different attributes out of each component that you're using. The two most common alloy aluminum frames that are used are either a 6061 alloy. That's your most common, most everything on the market that's aluminum is that. And then there's your slightly higher end, I think aircraft grade is the term that they use, 7005 aluminum. 6061, 7005. Those are the two most common aluminums that are used in frames. And that higher end 7005, lighter, stiffer, requires a higher level of kind of weld cleanliness and oof, man. Steels, the various different steels, and there's a lot. There's multiple different manufacturers that make steel tubes. So Reynolds, Tonga, Columbus, KS, or not KS, KS tubing. There's a lot of them. And there's that's a whole nother conversation if we want to talk about specific tube choices for steel frames. But
you're saying it's a trade-off between cost, stiffness, weight,
durability, and just each material has its intrinsic properties, and so when you are planning out a build or planning out what you want, understanding what the cost benefit is of each material, each property, is going to get you in that good direction of what you're looking at. So for that Tour Divide bike that I designed yesterday, we're going to go with a steel frame. It's a Tonga Prestige tubing. It's a really nice, cost-effective. We're trying to create a bike that's just a good workhorse. And so titanium would do that, but that titanium frame cost is 5 times what the other cost is. So when it would, effectively triple what our budget would need to be overall, it kind of makes it somewhat cost prohibitive. And so the steel frame that we're talking about is going to be the best option for that rider, for that event. And it will have a good external life after that too. Frame materials. Oh man, frame materials also translates to, fork materials, all of that other stuff. So whatever you want to build, you can. And, in the bike shop world, we've all done things that are just totally silly. So there are plenty of carbon road frames that you could put this fork on. It's not meant to be there. It's not meant to be intended in that way. It's going to kick that front end way back up, but you can. And I've definitely ridden that bike, definitely seen people do that. And yeah, it can be it's fun. And it's, wintertime in the bike shop is when we start just taking a stock of what parts that we have and what can we put together and what can we make and what can we, do with it. And so yeah, you'll definitely see what are called Frankenstein bikes out in the world that are just amalgamation of parts that people have had, that they had, the wherewithal to know what can go together, what's meant to go together, and they justified it one way or another. And so,
Some people ride with suspension on the road.
yeah, you can. It doesn't ride nicely. You're not really using it for what it's intended for. One of the other anatomy parts I always like to talk about is the anatomy of a wheel. So wheels are one of my favorite things, and actually I did get to build a wheel today, which always makes me happy. What I like about a lot of these wheels, and this is a DT Swiss hub, is that everything here for the hub can get taken apart by hand. And so I would need a hammer to knock the axle out, but here we are just by hand down to, end caps are gone. You can see both bearings. So there's our non-drive side bearing, there's our drive side bearing once I pull the EXP ratchet out. But so this here hub, this here wheel, just kind of is, a good example of what's going on here. So you have your hub, it's the center of the wheel, hub of the wheel. And that's where the spokes lace into and then go out to the rim. So hub, spoke, rim. Here we have external spoke nipples, so you'd be able to true and adjust them there as opposed to the internal ones where you have to go through the rim. But so yeah, a wheel like this is their intended gravel specific carbon wheel. So carbon wheels, like we talked about with the other kind of materials, actually nowadays one of the things that has changed is basically carbon has gotten much more durable for impact on rims. And that's weird to say because doesn't exactly translate the same way to frames. But there was a fun video that went out a few years ago from Santa Cruz that was Danny McCaskill, who's a very, very famous trials rider, riding a set of their reserve carbon wheels down a staircase without a tire or without tires on them. So it's just raw carbon bashing down against a stair set. And it was like a 10 stair set too, it was not small. And it didn't break. And that was kind of how they introduced doing lifetime warranty or lifetime crash replacement on carbon wheels, which Specialized Revolve does as well. A lot of brands do at this point. And so the kind of construction of what carbon rims have done have led to this very, very robust, very consistent, very nice material. And with the advent of the entire world going disc brake, so when you had rim brakes on your wheels, your rim was always a wear point. You would typically get about 20,000 miles, 15,000 miles per rim on a bike because the braking force would take away and wear through that brake track. Now that we just have rotors, there is no part of this wheel that is a wear item besides the bearings inside the hub. So yeah, the rim does not effectively have a life cycle. It's, impact is the only thing that realistically is going to destroy it, or heat, I guess if you were to take a heat gun and melt it. But, we're talking about very rare odds and ends kind of cases where a wheel like this would be destroyed and not be salvageable. So, when we're talking about material ideas, steel rims from 40 years ago, you can still buy them. They're not good. They don't break well, they are excessively heavy, and they're hard to find at this point. Aluminum rims are the most common, most popular, and that's what I think, looking around the shop here, every single bike that I have on the floor, except for that one, has an alloy wheel. Yep. And so it is by far the most popular. But wheels are always, in my opinion, the #1 upgrade for any bike, and you can really change the ride quality of your bike with a really nice set of wheels. But that is the anatomy of a wheel. Hub. This being a rear wheel, we do have what's called the free hub body. So the free hub body is where the cassette attaches, and so this one here is a Shimano free hub. They have options for the SRAM XT driver. They have options for the Shimano Hyperglide Microspline. Yes, of course, because there is not a single standard in this world, so you have to say about 12 different things. There is also a Campagnolo new N3W, I don't know how they want you to say that, free hub body for this wheel as well. So you could put one of 4 different mounting points for a cassette on there. Yeah, it's exhausting. It really is. I mean, being in the industry and memorizing all of this stuff because you brush up against enough, and if you know it, it's a lot easier. It's exhausting because there's a lot to understand, a lot to know. We haven't even talked about like spacing and spoke count and lacing pattern and all of that other fun stuff too. But yeah, there's a lot of that there too. Cool, wheels, frame. Yeah, I don't know, I'm kind of tired today. It's been a lot. My dog had surgery today. He's doing well. But still, he got a brand new hip. And so yeah, we're gonna need to take care of that. Let me see if I've got any questions on here since Jeremy's out helping that other gentleman. I'm just trying to see if we have any questions, and they would pop up here in the chat.
They would.
Okay.
Except we've been having big internet shutdowns. over
Gotcha.
here, so we're still good now. But
Okay. But yeah, unless you got something, Ken, you know.
I'm good.
Oh, hey, thanks Nick about is Charlie doing well? It's actually not Charlie that had his hip replaced. It's our other dog, Banjo. Charlie is doing well. He was at the shop today, though. Thanks for asking. Yeah.
Shout out to Nick.
But yeah, if nobody else has any questions, we're going to move on here. And so I got a 5-second delay to just let that kind of cook through.
So the cassette mounts on
To the free hub body.
free hub body.
Yep. And then yeah, there are effectively 4 different modern free hub bodies that are available out there. I mean, there's always more, but 4 that come to mind quickly. Yeah. All right. Let's check for questions again. And then I'm out. I'm going home. I'm tired. Cool. All right. Yeah. That's enough. Everybody have a good one. Thanks for showing up. And yeah, we'll do this again in the new. Actually, we might do one next week. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Yeah. We'll let you know. Cool. And I'm supposed to click end stream somewhere on here.